This week's episode of I Got Nothing is brought to you by Gold. Gold is great. It lets you buy a whole lot of things. But the thing about Gold is if you're dead, you can't spend any of it. So if you're in a life or death situation and you have to choose between grabbing your gold and saving your own life, don't go for gold. It's bad for you. What is this podcast called again?
I've got nothing.
Who came up with that?
Your wife.
Ah, shit.
Game of Thrones, the series that ignited a nation, is discussed weekly by two nerds. One, seen every episode completely immersed. The other knows nothing about the phenomenon. Each week, they discuss, debate about what they know and what one doesn't know. This is I've Got Nothing.
Welcome to I Got Nothing, the most unnecessary format for a podcast since Lost was on the air. I'm Colin.
I'm Alex.
And this week we are talking about Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 4, The Spoils of War. I'm not entirely sure on the title because HBO was not updated to let me know what the title of the episode was.
It might have been The Spoil of War.
Spoil or Spoils of War. We'll go with
we're
that.
in this zone.
I'm Colin. I've seen every episode of Game of Thrones and I've read all the books.
I'm Alex, and I've seen about 4 hours worth.
Yeah. And you'd mentioned between the last episode and now kind of shifting how we get into talking about this. So with that in mind, you want to just get into the big set piece of this episode and talk about that big battle at the end?
Yeah, absolutely. It was great.
They were calling that something weird, like the
I didn't catch
the loot train battle, because I guess they're taking their loot back to King's Landing. But holy shit!
Yeah,
What a thing to see.
That was. I mean, it's my first experience with the dragons, and yeah, I enjoyed that a lot.
Well, it was everyone's first experience with the dragons. We haven't
Really?
give or take a couple of moments in the most recent past series. Like this, the dragons have never been deployed to full on warfare like they have here, and it was glorious. It was the best kind of Game of Thrones episode where it sort of had a lot of filler in the first 40 minutes, just sort of moving the plot forward in the way that it needed to, and then giving you a nice, big, meaty chunk at the end of just this big, crazy thing that's happening. We got to see the Dothraki try themselves against another force, which we have not seen in the 7 years of this show. Got to see Daenerys on her dragon, wiping out her enemies in Westeros. All sorts of crazy. If anything, as is true for a lot of these sequences, I wish it had been longer. I mean, you didn't realize till about halfway through that Tyrion was there, and you really kind of wanted to see him more involved. I mean, you have Tyrion and you have Jaime in the same battle, and yet neither, like, Tyrion at the end you see knows that Jaime is there, but Jaime doesn't realize Tyrion is there, and you kind of want to see that dynamic played out as much as you can, and I'm hoping that we get to see that at some point. But I'm talking too much. What were your takeaways from this?
I mean, that was one thing that I'll gripe about at first is her just kind of going into the front line and then just hitting. That didn't seem tactically smart. She should have hit them from the side and just knocked out the entire line.
But surely by now you've realized that there's what her people tell her is the tactical thing to do, and then there's what she's going to do.
Which
right?
I respect. But no, that was absolutely incredible. Absolute amazing sequence. One of my favorite little bits of that was definitely when they I would say is definitely the going through and just the full weight of it. I didn't realize what Dany's dragons and what her army was just starting out. I knew it almost kind of seemed like she was.
It's they don't have movie money, so you very rarely get to see like a Lord of the Rings style shot where it's like here is in a single wide shot the entirety of the army. So we have been kind of going like we've seen a lot of ships.
Yep.
We've seen many ships, but we've never quite seen here's just a huge bulk of bodies in a field, and that shows you her fighting strength.
Yeah, no,
And we don't really even get to see that in this episode that much. It was very much edited for TV. Like, we did only get to see a few hundred people total in this entire skirmish.
No, absolutely. I mean, but it was still great, like, to kind of see her power is something that I kind of almost, from the very start of it, it kind of seemed like she had a lot of just different separate interests that kind of agreed that this queen we don't want this queen anymore, and that they were almost all kind of just working with her. I never knew her own army.
Yes.
And
she did, by this point in the season, we're halfway through the season now, and she needed a win. She's been kind of getting her ass kicked since she returned to Westeros.
100%. It's been rough. So I was happy to see that. I mean, and she did win, but I don't know. At the same time, it kind of felt. I'm wondering where that goes.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Because, I mean, while we do know that most of the gold has been secured,
but not all of it. And you saw from the earlier scene that
once it comes back,
there's a significant sum owed, and they needed to raid Highgarden to get the gold to pay it back, and they didn't get all that gold. They lost a chunk of it.
No, well, that's what I want to see more of is to see how that relationship then pays out, and then also, the dragon didn't die, Jaime didn't die.
Well, we don't know that Jaime didn't die.
You seem to kind of. My general gist is that he's too important of a character.
I hope he didn't die, but spoiler alert: this show has in the past done the thing of not directly showing a character's death, and yet then retroactively going back and saying, "Oh no, that person did die when you thought they died. You just didn't see it." So there's very much a chance that that's it for Jaime. He's wearing armor.
Yep.
And he fell into a body of water, and he's got one hand. So there's a very good chance that the next episode is Bronn pulling himself out of the water, and Jaime's gone. He sunk and he drowned. And I hope that's not the case, but the show has done that exact sort of thing before, so I'm bracing myself for it.
Yeah.
Which I guess leaves the question: is it better to drown or to be spit roasted by a dragon's flame burst?
Spit roasted for sure.
You think so?
I mean, it depends on the degree of separation between the spit roast.
I mean, we saw a variety of dragon fire strength where
exactly.
Sometimes the dragon would breathe fire and people would just be on fire and they'd be running around screaming, and sometimes it would breathe fire and you would just see ashen Hiroshima remains.
That's what I want. I think that's the best situation because you're just gone. You don't have any time to think about it. I think the worst case scenario is if you're kind of far away from the flame and it kind of just catches on fire. You then go to the water because you're on fire, and then you sink to drown. That's the worst of both worlds. I did kind of thought the dragon was really cute when it peeked its head out right at Jaime right before.
That was a dumb thing of him to do. There was no other way for that situation to go.
It's an animal, and it's gonna react a lot quicker than you. Think that through. Even though it was hurt, it's not gonna
And you think you can throw a spear. We've seen the ability of spears to be thrown in this series. Maybe if he had tried to throw it, he could have achieved his objective, but he didn't.
But losing velocity, I think he really wanted. Or maybe he was going for Dany. You don't know.
No, he was going for Dany. He was 100%. I don't think he was going for the dragon. I think that he was, knowing he was about to die, trying to kill her and just cut the head off this thing before it even starts. Rob the enemy army of their queen and leave them scrambling.
He didn't know that there were 4 more episodes left.
No, he did not know. Yeah. And then 6 more after that, whenever the final season finally
he did not think that
finally shows up. So that's a battle. That's a big Game of Thrones battle. It's probably not even the most substantial of the ones that we'll get this season. We'll probably have at least 2 or 3 even bigger ones going forward. We haven't seen anything of the White Walkers in this season.
Nope.
And haven't really seen any skirmishes around King's Landing. So good to see where that goes. But a lot of other stuff happened in this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get into that, I think we should give a shout out to our next sponsor.
Oh, we're already doing a sponsor shout out?
Yeah, well, we're getting big money now.
Big money? Okay.
Yeah, get money. Our latest sponsor is Dragon Bows.
Dragon Bows.
Yeah, Dragon Bows. they were really upset for a really long time. They were producing hundreds of Dragon Bows. Everyone thought they were absolutely crazy. Well, guess what? They're back. They're back, and we're the only supplier. Yeah, we got they got the patent and everything. Come get your Dragon Bows, because now there's 3 dragons, and we have way too many Dragon Bows. Yet we made them out of wood, so if your dragon breathes fire, not the greatest situation to be in. We did not think that far ahead of it, but luckily we have Dragon Bows to replace that. Dragon Bows.
They're technically called ballista, I think.
I like Dragon Bows.
Was your heart, like, when, during that whole build-up sequence as Braun was trying to aim it, was your heart pounding like mine was?
I enjoyed it.
General sense of, like, fear of what was going to happen.
I enjoyed. Oh no, I was definitely worried about the dragon.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the show they were like, you don't know whose side to be on. As someone who's only seen 4 hours of this series, I knew exactly what side I wanted to be on, and that was the dragon side, without a doubt. And I was really worried about the dragon.
Okay. What'd you think of Braun?
He's kind of cool dude.
Kind of cool dude.
Although I don't think I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't think he doesn't seem the type of guy to just have an alliance. I could be wrong with that, but
he was Mr. Superman in this episode. Like, I don't.
Yep.
I'm curious to see if he survived the lake fall. Like, I'm curious to see, because he's always been kind of the, like, yeah, he's this asshole, like, rogue out for himself, but occasionally does step out to like help other people. But, like, I don't know. I mean, he had his out, and then him to come back and leap in front of dragon fire to save Jamie. I don't know if that's. I don't know. I don't know if we've seen enough of his character to believe that's what he would do in that moment and not just cut and run.
Yeah.
But, you know, I guess we'll see in the next episode. I'm not writing the show, so I don't know.
I was kind of hoping it would be a Big Ears guy at the start.
Yeah.
Just really romantic. I think he died.
Yeah. And, you know, there was that kind of, like, false climax of, like, you really did think, like, okay, we have a couple of main characters on each side of this battle, and one of them's going to bite it, and none of them did, which to me is always kind of I find that a fluke, because normally with these big, I mean, and this was a skirmish by far, compared to, like, the episodes that the show has done where, like, the entire episode is a big battle. This was small, but normally in a battle of that magnitude, there are some stakes in terms of, like, you have 1 or 2 major characters on each side who are going to die.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of the point I was getting at the start of. I felt like there were so many people that now that I do know their names of, that I felt.
For example, whose names do you know?
Jamie, got that one down. Danny.
Not King Robert, as you've been calling him up to now?
I mean, I would love to keep calling him King Robert.
It's not his name. He's not a king, nor is his name Robert.
It's upsetting. And all I know is that he loves his sister.
Mm-hmm.
And then Braun, I learned this week.
Which I don't think I don't know if Braun was in the last episode, so this might be your first episode with Braun.
I never knew him before then, but now I know his name is Braun, which I was confused with Bran at the start.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to check my notes first before starting this episode. Full disclosure, make sure I wasn't talking about the scrawny little kid who was fighting in that war.
What other names do you know?
Let's go through these. I guess we'll get into this to the who's who section, but I don't know who Joffrey is. Let's see. Oh, Children of the Forest. I had a question about that. Has that been elaborated on in the past?
Oh, very much so.
Okay. I had the general sense of it. And I wasn't just it didn't seem like the casual viewer just to jump in and be like, them to just introduce this concept of the Children of the Forest. Let's see. And then, I don't know who Catelyn Stark is. I guess that was Queen Stark. At the very start, they mentioned her name.
That's not a thing.
Catelyn Stark? I don't remember. Let's see. And then, yeah, that was... I mean, there wasn't too many new additions this
What is the name
episode.
of the queen in this show?
Cersei's.
Okay. No ding for you on that one. But all right, so that's I guess
I tried.
We kind of glossed over our who's who in our reformatting of this show.
You know, we're all feeling it out as we go
So
along.
non-battle things that you want to touch on. Let's get into that.
I mean, yeah, we did the general setup of the gold, making sure that it's repaid from the bank, and then we had. I still don't know Small Hand's importance in this series by any stretch of the imagination.
You mean Littlefinger?
Littlefinger, sorry. Small Hand's Littlefinger. I wonder what, just kind of small. he gives this dagger, which I have no idea what the significance of that is. But it's made out. But apparently, it's really fancy.
They talked about it pretty significantly. Did you pick up anything from context?
I mean, I got from the very intro. It looks like that was given to Small Hands from.
Not his name.
They mention it Littlefingers, but is his literal name Littlefingers?
Maybe. I don't know.
You're killing me here. But whenever Bran gave it to him, it kind of seemed like Bran called him out on his bullshit. Because now Bran has a all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
So I guess you can kind of.
Which you'd think he'd be more useful than he's being.
So okay, this is kind of what I wanted to lead to was. I don't understand, other than getting ready for the wall and the war. I don't understand what the North is busy with, or what everything that's happening, or why it's relevant.
Well, they're preparing for winter.
I know that's with Jon Snow though. I just want to watch him dig out some dragon ice for like an hour. I'd be fine with that.
Okay.
And then the rest, I guess, like is a family reunion type of deal. Because I know it's Bran Stark. Sansa Stark.
Yeah, very good. You learned her name. There's a name you learned this
I know,
week.
ding. And then Arya's just all, I guess it's getting the band back together.
Kinda, yeah. These are characters that haven't been together since the pilot of the show, coming back together.
No, I guess that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have no idea. I would have, but other than that, Bran has offered no help. Again, don't know why Arya dipped her course to kill the king. That has not been made clear, or queen. That has not been made clear to me yet.
Well, she found out that Jon Snow was king of the North, so she had allies. But she's gonna...
Did she not know that she had other allies? Did she think they were...
I don't think she did. I really don't. I mean, you wouldn't know this, but she was on a long journey kind of off on her own for a very, very long time. So she's really out of the... Like, you notice that when she arrived at Winterfell, she asked for certain people by name, and the dudes are like, who the fuck is that? Because she's referring to people who died, like, in season 2.
Oh,
that
really?
She doesn't know about.
Okay.
She doesn't know that they died. So she's been very much off on her own for a long, long time. So there's a lot that has happened over the course of, like, the main story of the show that she's not aware of.
So that was probably very exciting.
Probably, yeah, it was very exciting. It's just all of this show began with the fracturing of the Stark family, and we've been following their stories independent of one another for years and years, and to finally get to see them come together, changed people, darker people, but as people with a common goal who have been through enough to know that when they stick together, they can defeat their enemies. That's a rare moment of, I don't know, sincerity and hope that the show usually doesn't offer. Because normally the point of the show is that if you're compassionate, then you die first.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Yeah.
I am curious to see it, just in the same way that like it seems like Jon Snow staying in Dragonstone is kind of an artificially drawn out process to get to a certain point story-wise. I'm curious to see how long Arya will stay up there because she has stuff she's got to get done.
She doesn't seem like, again, from the very first episode, it seemed like she was a girl on a mission.
Yeah, no, she's got a mission. She's got people on her list, and
I love that.
Her goals are not really compatible with what like the larger story is at this point.
Who else do you think is on her list?
I don't know, some people. You know at least one person.
No, I feel like it's a list of one.
I think it's longer than that.
Maybe it used to be.
As she said, most of the people on she's had that list for a long time, and most of the people on it have died.
Yep. Kudos to her. That's called being efficient. And then also a scene. I don't know who that blonde lady is.
Captain Phasma from Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why she's important at all.
Well, she's good with the sword, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like. It seems like the scene was leading that Arya and her are gonna train.
They did train.
Or like continue to train, but I could care less. I want to say, I just want Arya to just kill more people.
Well, it seemed kind of more of a...
so perfect.
That scene seemed more for the purpose of letting Littlefinger and Sansa know what Arya had become
I got you.
in her absence. Like, it's going to let Sansa know either that she can put Arya to use in a very specific way, or that nothing she can do can turn Arya away from what Arya is going to do. And to let Littlefinger know that, like, hey... this is a person that has a lot of reason to hate you. And the show, you talk about this being a show of reunions. They've very much kind of glossed over, because like I think about the long history of the show, and you think like, man, these people meeting up at this time, like, they need to go sit in a room together for like 5 hours and tell each other everything that has happened to them, because both of them are operating independently off of knowledge that the other one has that they don't. So you wonder, like, Arya's idea of Littlefinger is very different from what Sansa's is, because she hasn't seen him in 6 years.
Yeah.
So you wonder, like, how is that going to come to a head? Because the books are very different in this, but the show very rarely puts two characters in a room and doesn't have the entire histories of the relationships come to something of a climax.
Yeah.
Violence, allying up, something like that. But they're not going to waste the opportunity to put those two in a room and have the drama come out of it. So
yeah.
It seems like that's the only reason Arya is still in Winterfell, because otherwise I don't know why she's there. She doesn't know anything about the White Walkers because Jon's not there. And maybe that's like...
Oh, she doesn't know.
I'm worried that we'll be at this weird impasse where she's going to wait at Winterfell because she wants to see Jon, whereas Jon is waiting in Dragonstone because he has stuff he needs to do, and the story needs him to be there because Daenerys needs to ask him for his help. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know why Jon continues to need to be in Dragonstone.
I mean, he made slow progress this episode. He found the dragon glass, which he is now going... I presume by the next episode he will have mined it. He will have... Daenerys' people forging it into weapons. So he's one step closer to heading back home with a ship full of weapons, but I don't think it's going to be as clear cut as that. Something is going to happen to drastically complicate Jon's plans. The worst case scenario is he gets captured, which then leads a premature invasion from the north down to King's Landing to save him, leaving the entire land more unprepared for the wildling attack. Or not the wildling, the White Walker attack.
I got you.
But I don't know. It's the show generally zigs when you think it's going to zag, and so probably the best way to determine what's going to happen to Jon is like, what characters has he not come in contact with that the show would find really interesting. So maybe he comes in contact with Jaime. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, no, I definitely felt whenever I saw him still on the island that he's been there too long.
Yeah.
He's still a man of his people. And I just think he needs to get there. I don't think there's anything else about it. And in the episode recap, they mentioned that him and Dany might have a love interest. And I think I said it while we were watching. I was like, I don't see it.
That also seems like another fearful thing the story puts up as a reason to keep him there. Like, I'm curious to see a reason as to why the next episode can't begin with Jon sailing back north with a ship full of dragonglass weapons. Yeah. Daenerys is off. Tyrion's off with her. Yeah, he had his reunion with Theon, but that already resolved itself. I don't see that really going anywhere. Yeah. Maybe he's enlisted to help try to recapture Yara Greyjoy, but I don't see that happening. So I'm curious.
Well, I mean, and that's what they left with, is we don't know if he bent the knee or not.
Yeah.
And so if he called command, so that's kind of a little interesting.
It's annoying because it's a very rich and complicated situation that there isn't really much to do with until one character's needs change. There's nothing to do. It's just the same old, I will give you what you want if you bend the knee, and I cannot bend the knee because my people won't follow me if I do that. So we're at an impasse. Yeah. And nothing has happened to change that impasse between these two characters, who are generally the most infuriatingly stubborn in the series. Like I got that. They're the two characters that make you yell, just like, what the fuck are you doing? And you kind of wonder why they haven't died before now. But
I got you. I digress. I do know because of marketing that Jon Snow almost died. That was about it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I really do think Jon should get off the island. What I think is, I don't know why he didn't come with 2 ships, sail back, let the mining be done without him. That doesn't seem like it needs a king's job. Yeah. Or management. That just, like, honestly, that seems below his pay grade. It seemed like bad management.
I understand why he went initially for both,
Yes.
like for his personal reasons as a character and for what the story wanted. But yeah, it does seem at some point he should be back up in the north because there's nothing. All that's going on in the north is everyone's meeting back up again. There hasn't really been any action up there. Everything's been happening in the south. So either he needs to bring his people to the south, help out Daenerys, and then get back up north to prepare for the White Walker invasion, or he needs to get the fuck out of there with what he came for and just let the south destroy itself and deal with what he needs to deal with.
Yeah, but I think there's kind of a mutual agreement that they will help each other fight, and whichever one of those.
But it's an unspoken mutual agreement because neither has said it because both of them want something from the other, kind of like pro bono almost.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I don't know. We'll see where that. We'll definitely see where that heads, but.
Totally.
Yeah. Back at it. The North hasn't done anything for me this whole season.
I'm gonna imagine that. I don't know. The last couple seasons were very North heavy in terms of like the big marquee episodes. So I'm going to imagine that the majority of the action continues to stay in the South for
and
this
see what
season,
happens.
with a big season-ending cliffhanger on like shit's coming. Y'all got to get back up there.
I have a hard prediction to make.
Make it.
By the end of this season, Dany will have taken King's Landing.
You think so?
And then, I see Cersei's dying this season.
Yeah?
I feel confident about that.
All right. Well,
I mean, we have to have a main character die, right?
Yeah.
I could be way off. But then again, I've only seen 4 hours of this show. Versus...
Very true.
How many hours are there total?
This was hour 74.
Okay. That's my hot take.
All right.
That's my hot take. Let's see. What other conversations do we have? It was mainly... Oh, yeah, the
64. This is hour 64.
64. Regardless, 464, I don't know what percentage that is, but it is very small, and I have not seen enough, which I like.
Other than that, it was a pretty lean episode.
Flew through.
Very small scenes building up to a big battle sequence, which then... if the show is cyclical, which it is, you can expect the next episode to be very, very drawn out, all fallout, all people restacking the board towards whatever's coming next towards the finale.
Well, yeah, I mean, it puts Cersei, it puts Miss Queen in a tough situation. Dany still doesn't have a good army, and then the North is
But she's won
chilling.
a major victory, which is almost as big, and we saw in the next on that she's taking her captured soldiers and offering the chance to serve her, which is kind of, that's going to be her big saving grace, is her ability to win people over to her side.
Yeah. Well,
and apparently, I think, I mean, I know it's not clear. I think she destroyed enough of the gold for it to be a problem in King's Landing in repaying that debt.
I mean, that's kind of where my question is, because otherwise I don't unless the bank puts them in a weirder situation where they don't need to go.
No, it's going to lead to something
back
like the queen is going to have to do something drastic to get the rest of that money, and so it's going to be curious to see what that is.
Has the Iron Bank been a problem in the past?
Not a problem, but we've been aware of its existence. We've been aware of the fact that the crown itself is in debt. It's very much been in debt for the entire series, and at some point, the Iron Bank has started to show up to collect on its debts. It's been hard to do because the entire show has been in some form of war or another.
Yeah. Like what the banker said? He said Dany also has debts as well.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever going to be resolved because
it's hard to resolve that. I mean, why would she has 3 dragons. Why does she need to repay any money?
That's true. That's nice to have. Do you think the dragon doesn't die? I hope it doesn't.
I mean, I don't think she makes it out of this one with all of her dragons intact. That's not how this show goes.
Yeah.
The show established very early on that pets are not... They don't last.
Yeah.
They get killed.
Oh, I didn't feel comfortable with the horse violence. I'm being honest.
Gotta do with that horse violence, though.
Those kneecapping a horse, that felt...
It's a beast of burden, man. They're trained for one thing, which is to be ridden and fought on and die in the service of their country. Those were brave horses. Those were the Private Ryans of horses.
Oh, absolutely. No, they did their job. I just didn't want to know about their job.
No.
I wanted to presume that they just kind of, hung out and like the war soldiers were like, we hate this army, but the horses we're humanitarian.
Well, then I have a lot of bad news for you in terms of like the rest of the show that you're gonna have to watch at some point.
I'm okay with dragons; they breathe fire, but horses, they don't bite people.
Horses are jerks, though. Like as animals, they're jerks.
I mean, they're a little moody here and there, but for the most part, I'm okay with horses.
Would you watch a crossover episode, Game of Thrones and BoJack Horseman, where BoJack is one of the horses ridden in one of these big battles?
And he fights?
Yeah. No. He doesn't fight. He's just ridden by a warrior.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
That would be funny.
That'd be funny. I'd laugh.
Anything else on this episode? I think this is a shorter one than what we've talked about. There's not much to go on. Big prediction for the next episode, I guess. I've spurned a lot, I know.
No, it's all good. I made my biggest prediction to date. That dragon doesn't live.
I thought it was Cersei doesn't live.
No, she's at the end. That's at the end of the season. Yeah. Or I didn't seem to say she doesn't end. I just said Dany gets the throne. I don't know in what capacity that means. But she seems to be struggling with holding that throne down, and that kind of is my main point.
That's kind of the point. I mean, no one really, I'm trying to think, like, no one really holds the throne for that long in this show.
Yeah, and I just don't see them fighting a two-front war yet.
No, that's my biggest fear, is that they resolve one before the other can really get up and starting, because the fascinating drama of this is having to make that choice. Do you stay in the South and fight this war for the throne, or do you go north and fight this war for everything?
Because I think they might have a small bit of fighting in two front, but I don't think it's going to be that.
Yeah.
What if
that happens, I think it gets saved for the last season.
Yeah. Those are my only bits. And then I still don't think Jon Snow goes up north.
All right.
That's all I got.
Okay, well, in that case, I've been Colin.
I've been Alex.
And this is I Got Nothing.